Well, hello and welcome to Let's Have a Chat About Murder. Now, this is the podcast and it would be season 13, episode 1 for you on Spotify and any other place where you get your fantastic podcast from. But this is number 1 on the YouTube channel. So if you've been listening to me on the podcast, you can now come over and watch me on my YouTube channel. Let's Have a Chat About Murder. So hit the subscribe button, do what you've got to do. Follow me if you'd like. Also, just been some new uploads on Murder Analysed, so go over and check that out as well. Right. Today, because I've been researching loads of cases, because I don't know if any of you noticed, on Netflix they brought out Ed Gein's case. Right, I already wrote that, so I was going to do it, but my God, it was good. But I'll tell you what they bloody should be doing. They should be doing this one, the Toy Box Killer. This is the David Parker Ray. The truth behind the torture chamber, the Toy Box Killer. I mean, when I was writing it, I was shitting myself. I'm thinking, oh God, it's bad. I don't know how come I've never seen it? I don't know. Anyway, who was David Parker Ray? Well, he was born in November the 6th, 1939 in Belen in New Mexico. I'll tell you now, this has put me off going to New Mexico, right? I'm done, I ain't going. Anyway, raised primarily by his grandfather, had a difficult childhood with an abusive father, known as a loner, aren't they all, in school, bullied for being shy. How this man can even be shy, even said that he was being shy, I just can't believe it. Anyway, he became obsessed with bondage, sadism, torture, fantasies as a teenager, worked as a mechanic, that comes in handy for him later on, and lived in Elephant Butte, New Mexico. I'm telling you, I'm never going there. I just can't do it. As I was reading this case, I was shitting myself. I was like, oh my God. Anyway, this is a good case, right? And I think it's a perfect case for Let's Have a Chat About Murder, because really, it ain't going to get any better than this.
Let's have a chat about
Yeah. Sometimes I get so mad, there's no controlling me. My thoughts get so bad, I'm like, I might grab a bat, I don't know. My wrath, my blood boils over like, oh God, here goes. I lost all feeling from my head to my toes. You said some shit that I can't let go, so just stay tuned for the rest of the show.
So, this Toy Box Killer, right? This Ray, he built a soundproof trailer. It's like a trailer that you live in, but he made it soundproof. And he referred to it as his toy box. I mean, that alone is scary. But anyway, this was inside. Inside this was surgical tools, restraints, and whips. He had a mirrored ceiling, right? So as he strapped him to the surgical table, they could see what was being done to them, as could he. I mean, sick is not the word. I'm telling you, it's not the word. Anyway, walls were lined with diagrams of women in bondage positions. Police later described it as $100,000 torture chamber. He spent $100,000 on his sick fantasies to build this thing so that he could torture women. Oh my God. And I think men as well, to tell the truth. I think there was a few victims of men, but he really enjoyed himself. And it was all part of this fantasy. Now, what makes this case really bad for me was when I was reading on, saying about him. He used to have a tape recorder and he would tape himself telling these people what he's going to do to them and what was going to happen to them. So when he left that trailer, the toy box as he called it, he would play that tape over and over again to them. Oh my God, psychological damage, the fear that these people must have been under. And he held these people in there for days, sometimes weeks. under this torture and stuff and this sadistic stuff that he wanted to do to them. This is probably, I would say, one of the worst cases I've ever read. And, you know, if Netflix wants to make a horror, right, this is your next monster one here. I'm telling you, I don't know, I think they're doing some other one, but this is the one. This should be the one. Ed Gaines was bad, right? Don't get me wrong, we all know about Ed Gaines. He was bad, and I'm going to do his case and so you'll see how bad he was. And he was even worse. They couldn't put on half of what he'd done on that show because they wouldn't have been able to show it. Probably the same with this man, if they ever did it. So, he regularly drugged, kidnapped and restrained women, often sex workers and hitchhikers. Now, the reason, the profile, when we look at victimology with this man, right, and the victims around him, they were people that he knew wouldn't be noticed or cared about, to tell you the truth. And hitchhikers could have hitchhiked anywhere, right? So he relied on these sort of victims because, I mean, they say, you know, he's a suspect for up to 60. I reckon it could be more, to tell you the truth, because of his victimology, the victims that he used to go for. You know, gosh, this man. So as I said, he played these tapes to them, and he believed, and it is believed that he had accomplices, which he did, right? He did, including Cindy Hendy, his girlfriend at the time, Glenda Jess Ray, his daughter. What life must have she have had though? Anyway, we'll talk more about her in a minute. And as I said, up to 60 murders plus, I would say, because these bodies haven't been found. So, serious man. So, in March 1999, victim Cynthia Vigil escaped from Ray's trailer. Oh my God. She'd been held for days. And if you read what was in this trailer, I mean, he chained these people up. There were dog collars on them. He chained these people up. They were not allowed to move. He strapped them down to a surgical bed, right? Mirrors, you know, and then tortured these people, sadistically tortured these people. And this girl escaped. I think she might have been in there about 3 days. How, oh God. Anyway, she escaped. And she managed to slip free from the restraints when he left the room. But don't forget, as he's left the room, this tape is going, right? This tape is telling you, as a victim, lying there, looking at all the damage that's sort of been done to you, strapped down, chained down, everything else, when he comes back, what's going to happen? Oh my God, it's the worst case ever, this, for psychological and physical damage to someone. I think the death of some of these people may have been a relief for them after reading what this man did to these people. Anyway, this young girl has got out and she's run. She's gone, still wearing a dog collar round her neck. Oh, that's all she was wearing, right? That's all she was wearing. And the chain. So it had the dog collar, the chain, oh God, nothing else. She ran to a neighbour's trailer and called the police. Now, she escaped. When she escaped, she led them to the police, you know, the law enforcement, to discover the trailer, and they arrested both Ray and the girlfriend, Hendy, right? They arrested them both on that day. Well, God. So, in the trial, as all this was coming out, don't forget, not one of them would say where any of these bodies were, right? They knew there would probably be loads. They just couldn't find them. These people were not speaking. So she did, this Hendy, she did cooperate with investigators, giving them details of the crimes. Despite no bodies being found, multiple women came forward with similar stories of the captivity. He didn't kill them all. He let some go because he didn't think it'd be believed. Plus he had drugged them, right? So a lot of them couldn't remember what had gone on. They knew some abuse had gone on and they were psychologically damaged, but they didn't really understand why, because of the certain drugs that he used before and during the torture of these women. So if they survived all that, they were released. God. Anyway, so in 2001, Ray was convicted of kidnapping and torture. He was sentenced, listen to this, 224 years in prison. 224 years in prison. This is the scope of this man's crime. This was the disbelief, I think, from a jury and a judge and the sentencing for these multiple women. Don't forget, there was only a few that they'd found out and come forward. The rest of these people have gone and deceased, and no one has been ever able to find their body, because this man would never ever say at all. So what makes it even worse in this case? So he was sentenced in 2001. He died in 2002 from a heart attack. Bloody ironic, isn't it really? A year later, he dies. He was only 1 year into his sentence. So, 28th of May 2002, at the age of 62, so this man had 61 years to terrify, humiliate, torture, kill women. Oh, God. Terrible. And that was at, I think, Lee County Correctional Facility in Hobbs, New Mexico. Told you I'm never going to New Mexico. Let me know if you've been there, because I just don't know. So let's talk about these victims, right? These are this unsolved part of this. So authorities believe that there were many more victims, but without bodies, murder charges couldn't be filed. 224 years without these being filed. Ray's audio tapes suggest that a long history of abduction dating back decades. Probably started when he was a teenager, didn't he? Bloody hell. Maps, journals, artifacts suggest that the body's disposal in a remote New Mexico desert area, but searches yielded nothing. God knows what he'd done to his bodies. FBI continues to list this as an open investigation with potential for unidentified victims. So if a body's found or whatever, or someone finds anything, this is an ongoing investigation. So really, you got to think, the toy box was a real life torture chamber. He spent $100,000, and he was a mechanic and he could build, so he built it himself, right? It was meticulously designed for prolonged cruelty. Oh God. Victims were forced to listen to chilling pre-recorded instructions. The cases mixes elements of sadism. There was definitely an accomplice, and they think it was a bloke and not only the daughter but also the girlfriend, so there was accomplices. And this probably is one of the darkest cases in American history. God. So anyway, David Parker, he was born in 1939 and he died in 2002, also known as the Toy Box Killer. He was an American serial rapist, torturer and suspected serial killer, although he was never convicted of murder due to the lack of physical evidence. Still got 224 years. Police suspect many have been killed, up to 60 women in Arizona and New Mexico over the decades. He died of a heart attack in 2002 while serving 224 years for kidnapping and torture. So you can believe what this girl's kidnapping and torture was like to get a sentence of 224 years. Let's think about it for a minute. Imagine being trapped in a soundproof trailer, chained to the table, forced to listen to the recorded voice describing the torture you're about to endure. This isn't fiction, right? This wasn't fiction. This isn't fiction. This is true crime. This is it. The twisted reality, I think, created by this David Parker Ray, the man the world will come to know as a toy box killer. I mean, really, just that alone says it all, doesn't it? I should have just ended it there on that bit. I should have just started it on that bit. That was it. Chills, really. This case gives me chills. So, let's talk about this girlfriend, Cindy, who was deeply involved, right? Deeply helping lure, restrain and torture victims. After her arrest, she cooperated with the police, providing disturbing details about the methods he used and alleged killings. So she was the one that sort of said a lot, but she says she did not know where the bodies were that he had killed. That wasn't sort of part of what she was about. A lot of people use women, like serial killers, to gain the trust of other people, hitchhikers. If there's two of you in a car and a man and a woman, a hitchhiker would probably have got in, thinking I'll be fine. There's a woman there, young girl. No. Or if you are, a street worker or a sex worker, I don't understand in this area. I think it was quite remote where he was, that people hadn't understood about these people, because then also you had the daughter, don't forget, his own daughter, this Glenda Jessie Ray. Now she was accused of helping her father in multiple abductions, including the drugging of women, a woman, and her name was Kelly Grant, in 1996. Jess was also tied to the disappearance, of Maria Parker in 1997. I think that was a woman allegedly killed under Ray's orders. I think she may have killed her under his orders. So in 2001, Jess Ray, his daughter, pleaded guilty to kidnapping. Thanks to a plea deal arranged by her father, the killer of all these and the torturer, she served just 2.5 years in prison after her release. She moved out of New Mexico, I bet she did, and she changed her identity and tried to build a new life. But suspicions about her now, of how much she knew, really knew, and how deeply she was involved, have never faded. Now, when you do plea deals and the father's involved in your plea deal, I mean, this girl was brought up by this man, right? She's probably a sick individual herself. So to get 2.5 years though for the part she played, or the part she said she played, or the part the father says she played, and to let this girl go, I don't know, I think they could have done a better plea deal than that. Where's the bodies? That would have been a nice thing to find out before you give people plea deals. I don't know. So anyway, she's out. She got 2.5 years and was out. They could have, I suppose they could have thought, she served a life sentence with him, really, living with him. But for me, I think that's a bit of a joke, really. So let's look at the psychology of this man. So, who is he, right? When it comes down to his psychological profile, experts have described him as a man with strong psychopathic traits. Yeah, I think that's easily done. Manipulative, devoid of empathy, absolutely. I think there is no empathy there. Definitely, a psychopath. He led a double life, appearing to be an ordinary neighbour, a family man, while cultivating, I suppose, all this stuff in his little toy box, in his little bit of land. And the world of his was so violent. Everything about this man was so violent. The more pain he caused, the better he liked it. Oh God, it's just terrible. I suppose at the heart of his crimes was sexual sadism, which is obvious, I suppose, deriving from pleasure and inflicting pain. For Ray, the toy box was more than a location. It was a physical embodiment of his fantasies. Yep, absolutely. Every detail of that was designed to give him control. Because remember, a lot of this sadism and sexual sadism and murder and all this sort of stuff, it's about power, control. That's really what it's about. This man liked the pain he could inflict. That's what the mirrors were up there for. It was all the torture parts of it. The psychological torture that he was doing to these people, because he wanted to see the fear in their eyes and their face. Because this man didn't recognise fear as we normally would, because the man's got no empathy. So they need that. Listen, you can scream and scream in pain to someone with no empathy, and they wouldn't even bat an eyelid at you. So these extreme forms of sexual sadism and pain and torture that he was inflicting was to give him something. What can I get from this? Because he wasn't getting anything. I guarantee it. And that's why the torture went on and on and on, sometimes for weeks. Because you're trying to please a man that cannot take that in. His brain cannot understand what is going on. He doesn't recognise it. He wants a feeling. He wants to feel, but he can't. That's what that man was, which makes him one of the most deadliest and dangerous people on earth. These are your deadly killers. There is nothing you can say or do that will stop these sort of people from doing that they want, because it's their reaction they want, their feeling they want. They don't give a shit about you. They want to get off on it, and they can't, because they don't recognise it internally. They just can't, because they haven't got it. So he liked to ritualise his crime. He had a certain way of doing things, right? Another thing they get off on, better do this. I'm going to do it this way, this way, and this way, because that's what they practice. That's what's in their mind, right? In their sick mind. He's playing like a movie, and he's following each instruction that he's thinking about, so he can follow his own little script, right? The restraints have to be put in a certain way, the recordings have to be put in there, the ceiling has to be covered, so you can see what's going on with mirrors. He has that atmosphere, has to, the soundproofing, scream, scream, scream as loud as you want, because no one's going to hear you. You're never getting out. That's what he wanted, and over in his mind, this is what was playing and playing and playing. And I think I don't know if he meant to kill them, to tell the truth, but because he can't get that feeling, because he can't recognise it, the torture and the extreme attacks on these people that he was doing would have killed them. So whether he just wanted the torture part and the really, and no accident in murdering someone, but I think in this case, he didn't know when to stop. He couldn't stop. He wanted that reaction, he just wasn't getting it. So when you have someone like this man, they're so manipulative, their skills. Remember, because people said, oh, he's a nice man. He was a mechanic, member in the community, people liked him. We always didn't take the mask off, right? What's underneath? Bloody hell, what's underneath this one? You wouldn't believe, right? But he had this ability, this man, to draw other people in to his world, to his sick world. He loved it. He knew he couldn't do it all on his own. He wanted other people. He wanted to control them. Bring me people. You do this. You torture them. You do, bring them in. It's like a bloody cult, isn't it, really, when you think about it? And that's what makes him as dangerous as well. Someone that has the ability to recruit people to undertake these sort of things. Get me women. Doesn't matter about them. They're sex workers. They're hitchhikers. No one's going to miss them. I need it. Get me them. And they did. Were they in fear for themselves? No, not really. Come on. Alright, you've met a man. Right? Say you've met a man. And all of a sudden he wants to do this kinky stuff, just strangle you and all this stuff in bed. You think, Christ's sake, he's soon gone, isn't he? Most people. So what is it about the people then that he was trying to bring in to this group? Weak, vulnerable themselves, drug addicts, a lot of them actually were, so reliant on him to give them drugs and stuff. These weren't people that was in the right frame of mind. When we talk about his daughter working with him, what do you expect when you have a man like this bringing up children? I don't know. Would that have been all she would have known? What happened to her? Because this man was so sadistic. What happened to her to make her and give her the ability to help him do this sort of stuff? What made people do it? Answer that question. That'd be great. Give me your opinion. I liked your opinion. Anyway, from a clinical standpoint, Ray's behaviour reflects antisocial personality disorder, sexual sadism disorder, and psychopathy. He was a psychopath, right? He's also an example of how violent his fantasies were when unchecked and, I suppose, ritualised, because this is what he kept doing over the decades. He needed it. That was his life. But it's also this escalation into these other hidden crimes. But I don't know if he was what we would call a killer in a sense. I do believe that his torture became too severe for any human body to take, and so they died, right? Because any person like this, like any serial killer, will start off doing a bit of flashing, right? You know, maybe a sexual assault, and then it ain't enough, right? Then they lead on to something else. It's not enough. Then they may kidnap and rape. Not enough. Then they may go way, way on to where they murder. And it's not only about the murder that gets them off, right? It's about the power and the control over that person. What they need. It's something they lack in their own life. I believe that. It's something they lack. They need it. They need it. And it's just shocking because this man must something. I mean, we know he had an alcoholic father. He was brought up by his granddad. His mother, I don't think, was around. So again, we talk about early childhood when we look at these sort of cases. But for someone to have such extreme views that were reinforced over the years, to someone in the 90s to spend $100,000 on creating their own toy box of torture, right? These are extremes. These are someone that's really playing their fantasies out into the real world now. You know, lots of people have fantasies about different things, and lots of people are into sadomasochistic stuff and all this, but they usually keep it in their mind, into their self, you know. They don't really take it out into the real world and design and create stuff like this to play out every madness and destructive thought and harmful thought that's going on in your mind. They don't, right? This man did. So he needed this in his life. He needed it. Bloody shocking, isn't it, really? Before I end this video, and it's a shocking video, I know, I want to talk about the suspected cases, the people who have disappeared. And this was Jill Susan Torra. She disappeared in 1995 after an argument with Ray's daughter, the one that was linked. Another was Sylvia Marie Parker, believed to have been killed under Ray's orders in 1997, but no bodies and no definitive forensic evidence was ever found. Prosecutors couldn't put any murder charges to it because really no body, no evidence, there's nothing that led them to where they could charge him for their murders. Even after Ray's death, police searched Elephant Butt Lake and released photos of items recovered from his trailer, hoping that families might connect them with the missing loved ones. But the trail ran cold, and the truth about his victims remain hidden beneath the sands of New Mexico. This man kept stuff from his victims, so they know there was a lot. They know the type of victims that he was after, people that wouldn't be missed, wouldn't be looked for many years, maybe wouldn't be reported missing for one reason or another. He understood what he had to do to stop himself being caught, really. So yes, David Parker has died, after serving a year in prison out of his 224-year sentence. But I think his crimes do continue to cast a long shadow when they've got no bodies recovered and things. People are still looking for loved ones all across America, right? And it's a terrible fault to think that anyone that you're looking for would have come across any of these people concerned in this case. His toy box was dismantled, of course it was. So you've had some of these accomplices, 2.5 years for the daughter and whatever, the other one's out now because she helped really with the police with the investigation. But did they really help, right? Did they really know a lot? I think the girlfriend didn't know much really at all. What she did know, or did herself, I suppose she wasn't going to say the whole truth. As I said, no bodies were ever found. Everything destroyed, everything gone. He's dead. Things are forgotten about. But there are still many, many bodies out there that have not been found. So in the end, David Parker Ray represents more than a killer. He represents the terrifying truth that something the darkest predators hide in plain sight, building private worlds of horror and taking their secrets to the grave. And I wonder how many more are out there. Anyway, thank you for watching. Let's have a chat about murder. And I'll speak to you soon. Make sure you subscribe, hit every button going, and leave comments. I appreciate it. Bye for now.